For the upcoming session, we would like to welcome Puja Sakhia and Vishal Parmar. So Puja is a test automation test analyst at Paul Mason Consulting with over 7+ years of experience in IT industry. And Vishal is the automation lead at PMC Retail. And they would be speaking on the topic load testing beyond the apparent approach. To know more about them, you can check the links given below. So sir, I'll stop sharing and the stage is yours, sir.
Thanks, Alankrit. I'll be sharing the screen in a moment. Could anyone please confirm you're able to see the screen? It might take a second or two to load.
Sir, is it the Batman photo?
Yeah, and now it should be in the presentation mode.
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alankrit.
Yeah. Thanks, Alankrit for the introduction part. So, good morning, good afternoon, and maybe good evening to the people across the world. Me and Vishal, we have come up with a topic called load testing beyond the apparent approach. So, till now, you might have come across an apparent approach wherein you might be testing your applications, load testing your application using an open source tool, which is called JMeter. But now today, we will be briefing you about another horizon to load testing, which is called as a browser-based approach. So we'll quickly move to the agenda of the meeting. Agenda of the talk. First, for a novice, we'll see what is load testing. Then we'll quickly see the apparent approach to the load testing. Then we'll move on to how we have transitioned, like what all things which are not there in the apparent approach and which are introduced in the browser-based approach. Then we'll see how browser-based approach can be approached as how it is technically sound, and we will see what all real-time scenarios we can take off when we see browser-based, and what all scenarios we can use browser-based and leverage browser-based approach. And the fun part, which is the flood element. So to introduce browser-based approach, we have used a flood element tool, and we will be presenting you one of the use case which we had implemented in our company, and we'll be sharing few snapshots of the framework and the execution and reporting thing. And lastly, we'll end up with the question and answer. So starting with, before jumping on to what actually is the traditional and the browser-based approach, do we exactly know what is load testing? So like any application, whenever it is rolling out, we make sure that it is tested fully under all the load conditions, right? So here, if you can relate the load testing, whatever I'm saying with the picture which is there on the screen, you can consider myself as a rat and Vishal as a elephant. So we need to consider the application in both the conditions, in a lighter load and as well as the heavier load. So if we consider an Amazon application, not every time the application will be having a certain specific number of users accessing the application. It will always have it might have at the same time, it might have too many number of users accessing the application. So this is an utmost important feature which we need to consider while rolling out an application. So moving to you, Vishal.
Yeah, thanks, Pooja. So as we have discussed what load testing is, what performance testing is in that feature. So let's take a step back and let's see what actually the apparent approach is and what the protocol-based approach, as we have termed in this agenda as well. And to help things align, we have tried to use a sports example, wherein let's see the video, what it speaks, and I can take things from that point onwards. I hope the video is working and it's not glitchy. Could anyone please confirm? Is the video?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
see
sir,
the
yes, sir.
video, but audio is not there.
Audio is not there. Yeah, I've precisely not had the audio because I wanted to speak in the between as well. So as you can see, while it is being there, while the clip is being playing, the apparent approach or the older ways of working was to have an umpire on the field and let him decide whether it's out or not out. If I can just freeze it in that moment, it was going above the wicket, so eventually it is not out. But if we see the protocol based approach or the apparent approach, it works just fine at every scenario. But in the real world example, in the today's world where everything is moving at a rapid speed and they are working at a pace where every minute detail matters, every small thing, every detail considering from start to the end matters, that's where the browser based approach, the newer approach, which is in the umpiring field, which is the DRS, which we call it decision review system. So I'll play that video as well. So if we see from a protocol based approach or the older ways of working, the umpire has given it not out, so things ends there, it's a wide, so it's an extra run. But if we see the minute detail, if we approach from a different point of view, a different perspective to the things, use technology for our advantage in that case, because everything is moving technicality of the matters. And when we see this minute detail of a spike decides the fate of the match and sometimes decides the fate of the World Cup as well. So that's where every minute thing matters, every detailing of the feature matters, and this is what it is. And this is what Puja and I are trying to bring over here, that we are not completely neglecting the protocol-based approach. We are not completely neglecting the umpiring. We want to have it, but have additional layers to it, have technicality into it as well, so that the end result which we get as a customer, as a client, or as a person who is delivering that solution, that will be of utmost quality. And that is why we want to have the browser-based approach into the thick of things. Now, looking at one of the section, which is technicality of, so what it is actually from technical perspective. So let's read out one by one. So what it does, first of all, it simulates the real browser instances, that every real browser that we want to have, be it Chrome, be it Edge, be it any specific version of that, we can have it. And everything is, as we say, user-centric, and user behavior, it's hard to predict, but we can do that with a different ways of assumption. In testing, we have UAT, that is for user acceptance testing, because we want to see if a user sees that application, would they approve it? Would they want to have it in their thick of things or in the day-to-day activities? So we want to capture the user behavior as well and the transaction to it, because in the real-time example, there are multiple ways to reach to one destination. If I want to, let's say, reach from here to Dubai, I have multiple ways to reach to Dubai. So there are multiple behaviors of it, there are multiple transactions to it. So it will capture that as well from technicality of the things. And it also does one thing, which is an additional layer, that it captures the performance of every single entity from client side to server side, and inclusion of all the third-party integration. Let's consider any payment gateway. There is a payment gateway to it. There is a third-party integration to it. You might see ad in the application which we visit. You might see a pop-up in the application which you visit, which is hard to implement from protocol-based, because it is mainly a user experience. It's mainly rendering of HTML, CSS, and multiple things around it. So what this does is it captures every single thing from client side to the server side. And as every application has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript computation, so it will perform that as well. So let's say I'm on the application, I have clicked on 3 things, and after that, a backend call has been triggered. So to mimic those 3 things, it will matter. If it might be 5, it might be 3, but that change of 3 or 5 or 4 or anything in between, it might be fraction as well. If we go in that detail, that plays a vital role in performance testing as well. So it will capture every single entity in that. And now there's one more thing which is of utmost importance in today's world, which is caching mechanism. Let's take a moment. I'll have everyone you think for a minute. Could you please think in your head that what you had for dinner on Tuesday? It might take a couple of seconds. It might even take a couple of minutes. If you're having memory like me, I'm not able to recall right now what I had for dinner on Tuesday. But once I recall it, let's say I had pizza. If someone asks me just after that, I'll not even take a millisecond to respond back, because it's already in my head. I have recalled it. It is stored somewhere, and now I can relate to it as well. So that is what caching mechanism is. If you recall it sometime, you store it so you can use it faster. That's how the real-time applications are. It stores something in our browser. It stores something as a cache or cookie. So that mechanism is of utmost importance as well when we test the performance of it, because it might take 3 seconds in the first instance to load that particular image. But if it's stored, it might take 0.5 or even 0.25 seconds in that case. So that deviation of 3 to 0.25, that matters a lot. And that is why cache mechanism is required. And one more point, which is of SPA, which we call it single page application, and the dynamic content, that is being covered as well. You might see infinite scrolling, you might see loading of the website depending upon the user action. And you might have heard about a Netflix series as well, which is on the market, that if you select one thing, depending on your selection, the next things will come into picture. So that selection of the user, that is of utmost importance. And that is what browser-based approach tells us to do as well. And moving on to the next slide, which is more of real-time scenarios based on the browser-based need. So let's consider an example that due to the Christmas phase, I want to visit US. I hope I want to visit US. And there's a visa slot booking. There are around 10 slots and there are 100 people booking for that. So it eventually is first come, first service based. And that is what a click of a millisecond matters in that case. That's what we want to have it with browser-based performance testing as well. Consider there is a Christmas sale. Consider there was a Thanksgiving sale, and every sale which pops here and there. So there is a big sale at that time, and the traffic at that moment is of huge quantity. You might have experienced that you are able to have that in your cart, but when you do the payment, it goes out of the stock. That is what user experience is. That is what the real-time examples are, that you have to mimic what the user is experiencing. You would be able to check the module from protocol side, but what a user is experiencing, that is what our main agenda of today is. And the third one, which we have talked in the past as well, which is payment option, which is having multiple third-party integration, goes from authentication to calling multiple things, be it OTP, be it any entity which is there in the market. So that entity also plays a vital role as an application performance layer, which we have as well. So that is from the real-time scenarios, and we face the same thing in our one of the problem statement as well. That is when we came to know about browser-based approach, and that is the moment where we got into the depth of Google and find multiple things for that, which was mainly to see what browser-based approach is. First of all, is there anything as browser-based approach? If there it is, how it can address our problem. And that's why we came across a tool which is named as Flood. And we'll be having a quick glance of features of Flood as well.
Yeah. So taking over from Vishal, as you have already know that what browser-based approach is. So what browser-based approach is, you already know what.
Incorporate the problem statement and give us the best fit solution for that as well. That is the main reason for having such framework. And the Flood that we have shown, it gives us the beautiful bandwidth to work the way we want to. It just gives us a couple of layers and couple of plugins to work against, but it gives us a free hand to code the way we wish to as per our problem statement.
Yeah. So as we shown that we have used a Flood element. So Flood element is their own kind of a tool which we can use leverage to write scripts. But it also supports, if you have scripts within JMeter or Gatling or Selenium, it also performs load across these tools as well. It accepts the files with written in these tools as well. So it's pretty much useful in that sense.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So, Vishal, I have just one question. Can we simulate all types of performance testing scenarios here, like scalability testing? Is there any restriction designing those scenarios?
To term it in a shorter way, there aren't any restrictions. We can have it the way we wish to as per the configuration, and to have specific categories of it, let's say load or stress or endurance or any other module. So Flood gives us that grade quantity. It also gives us a huge amount of sections to work against. So every kind of performance testing can be incorporated in that. We have tried few of them, not all of them, but the way we have tried it was able to incorporate those as well. And the main reason to have this topic encircling load testing, not the other ones, is that we wanted load testing as the ultimate feature of that, and the rest of the ones, be it stress, endurance, or any other entity, those can be incorporated as well.
Okay, thanks, Vishal. So is it open source or is it still incurs some cost? Yeah.
Yeah, so as every beautiful thing comes as a cost, so it has its own cost at a certain level. So to have that, there's a flood element pricing section to it, but Puja and I can help you at a sort of overview level of that. So what basically flood works against is virtual user hours. So it's not only number of users or number of time that you have executed, it's combination of that. So if you execute 100 users for 1 hour, so you can think of the time that it's going to take, it is going to be considered as 100 virtual user hours, right, Puja? So it's 100 into 1, so it's going to go in that direction. So it gives a certain amount of virtual user hours as a free entity per month. It's around 500 or more than that, in that range, which gives us that bandwidth. And if you want to go at a certain level, let's say 10,000 virtual user hours or even more than that, it comes with a price to it, and that's what flood element has, that price. It also has corporate prices attached to it as well, but it also gives us this 500, or I believe 500, 700 as a free virtual user hours in every month. So it also renews. It's not for a year slot, it's for a month of slot.
Okay, thanks, Vishal. So just one final stuff. How it differs from other enterprise tool like near load or load runner? Have you observed any major benefits with floods than other enterprise tools?
That's a great question. So basically, what I have felt till now is that flood element has a very rich level of result portal to it. So as we have shown, it can export that as well. It can have the log of every single entity. Load runner, I have not explored a certain length to it, but what I have compared till date is flood elements has a very rich for execution platform. As we have shown in the video, it was covering 3 grids sitting on different regions of the level as well. So it covers that. So from that perspective, we found flood element, or flood to be specific, as a very rich entity for execution. And it also gives us that huge amount of bandwidth to work with TypeScript from the coding perspective as well. So not a huge difference, which I can see, but if we see the minute details, that's what will come into picture. And that's how flood elements takes the edge over the existing one. That's one which is called as load viewer, if I'm not wrong. So that also helps with the browser based performance testing. But yeah, that is the additional entity which is there. Puja, you want to add to that?
I think you pretty much covered with everything, but as long as we are considering performance, we have to make sure that it is like whatever results we get, it is kind of fruitful and it is accurate. So they have their like good set of developers team, and even whenever you are like you come up with any sort of problems or any issues with or in configuration or something like that, or anything which you want to perform, irrespective of what flood offers, even they are ready to incorporate within their infrastructure as well. So that is what and they're always reachable as well. They have a good support system as well. So that is an additional support.
Thanks, guys. Much useful.
Thank you. Okay.
You were saying something, sir?
No, I was just handing it back to you.
Okay. So thank you so much, Puja and Vishal, for your valuable time. That was a very amazing session. And as you said, we got to see a real-time example by getting kicked out also.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So